Hey VC, it's Mazzy here. I don't know if this is number 29 or 30, but it's a very, extremely, wonderfully special edition of Whack-A-Mole. In a traditional version of Whack-A-Mole, I pick 5 random albums and talk about them. But when I have a very special guest like I have this evening, we just go with it. I let my guests pick albums. We pull some albums that are common to us for one reason or another, and that's it. So, without further ado, I have Amanda. And Amanda and I just met because I swiped left. I kid. Amanda and I have been friends for 14 years. 14 years. In San Francisco we met, and it was...
Because of martinis.
Because of martinis and music.
Yes.
And what famous comedian movie director?
Woody Allen.
There. You know, people like to trash him now, but fuck it.
Fuck it, anyway, we like it.
We love Woody Allen. We love Woody Allen. So cheers.
Cheers.
Anyway, we're going to show some albums. I'm going to show some music that Amanda turned me on to way back, and then probably reciprocal things I've turned her on to. Amanda is what I used to call an archivist, but I learned all my life after
Forever.
40, 50 years of life, I learned that it's an archivist.
Yes.
Archivist. I want to say archivist. Gesundheit. Anyway.
Music history collection archivist.
She database, metadata.
Metadata.
Like, what is an archivist?
Well, we
talk to our audience.
We take on, catalog and make findable and usable historical collections under the guise of stewardship for the eternity, basically. No small feat. So we preserve recordings by digitizing them, caring for the original carrier, making repairs, and also just making them available to everyone for research and posterity and, you know, all the stuff. It's great. It's a wonderful privilege.
That's what you like a woman to say to you when you're having a martini. We're friends. But Amanda is, and this sounds really like pushing it, but at the time, one of the few women I knew that was really into records, really into music. I had a little bit of, when I first met her, she had a little bit of a snooty thing about like ABBA or the Beatles. I mean, not the Beatles.
Not the Beatles.
Anyway.
Yeah. He likes to give me a hard time.
I set her straight. She set me straight. She turned me on to music, and we're going to talk about those bands and artists. And I got one thing that's pretty amazing that you got to see here. Now, this is like, look at that. Who has a friggin' record player as a tattoo? I just got this, like, you know, look at this. I copyrighted myself. And when I went in for a tattoo, the woman said, "Oh, that's nice. What, you want these little numbers? You want them on your wrist?" I said, "I'm Jewish. I can't have numbers on my wrist." And ba-dum-bum. Anyway, so Whack-A-Mole number, whatever it is, with guest archivist Amanda. Now, people who follow me know that I usually kick my drink over, so I got to not put it down. Anyway, 2005, late fall 2005, summer to fall, whenever it was. Amanda and I would meet. This sounds weird, but we actually realized we have a common interest in music, but a lot of interesting things. And we made each other some mix CDs. I just pulled these, and I still have them. She violated the copyright of the Keane estate here on this mixtape, and then she later gave me 3 that have like that kind of...
I think these were first.
These were first?
Yeah, because I did all 3 as a series, and then I did this one as a second follow-up later, because this one was in the winter.
And it was amazing. This was like, in that period, there was a lot of these bands from the 90s and 2000s that I just missed completely. And you've heard me talk about a few of these artists, but I'm going to show you 5 albums, and these aren't necessarily the albums that were on this mixtape. CD. Mix CD. But these 5 artists, Amanda turned me on to, and I've fallen in love with, and I love them since. I mentioned some of these before. Now, in no particular order. Smog. You know Bill Callahan, I just showcased his latest album. I love Bill Callahan. I've seen him 3 times now. And this was He put records in the late 90s and 2000s under the name Smog. Like, how did you get into him?
I cannot remember.
Okay, there we go. This is going to be a good video. Okay. Mazzy loves you. No, we're not signing off yet. Anyway, the song that she put on here was In the Pines, which is an old kind of tradition or older country song. You know who wrote In the Pines?
I do not.
Why is she here? She doesn't know anything. I thought she knew about... She's an archivist. She's not a
Music expert?
musicologist. There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
They're
Anyway.
vastly different.
Joanna Newsom, harpist. Now, this isn't the album that was out at the time, but I fell in love with her squeaky high voice, her harp playing, her... Okay, should I ask you anything about Joanna Newsom?
My friend Gary, when I lived in Seattle years ago, was the buyer for Easy Street in Queen Anne at the time, which is now defunct, and he brought home the first Joanna Newsom record, and it was amazing, caught my attention, and I then moved down to Seattle the next year, I believe, and passed it on to Maslov here.
San Francisco.
Yes, that's what
Yes,
I meant.
yeah, I get it. Seattle's. She lived in Seattle before I lived in Seattle. Now she lives in Austin and Tulsa, and where are you now? You're in Austin.
Austin at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, Joanna Newsom, great. This is a great album. This is the one that is orchestrated by Van Dyke Parks, who did all the Beach Boys arranging and Pet Sounds, pre-Pet Sounds with Brian Wilson. But a gorgeous, gorgeous record. Okay. Jens Lachman. Now, he's Swedish, right?
Yes.
Okay, anything you can tell me about Jens Lachman?
Not really. Around the same time, I also, when you live with someone who's the buyer for a record store, as good as Easy Street is, basically they bring home everything. That's great. And I believe Gary brought home a Jens Lachman album, and we all listened to it, and I think we all saw him play the first time that he came into the U.S. I saw him.
Did I see him with you?
Yes, we saw him at Bimbo's.
Oh, right. I saw him at Bimbo's, and we saw him at what's that little club in Hayes Valley? It's an Asian name, Japanese room, the something room, I forgot it. It's on like Fell or Oak or... Maybe you weren't there then.
I don't know. I saw him at the first Pitchfork Fest.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, in Chicago.
You know, there's a connection, I realize now. The other person that I've been showing, and some of you saw the video I featured, Amanda's the one that turned me on to this wonderful woman, Scout Niblet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and she's amazing. Obviously an acquired taste, maybe, but I think, I don't know, it's indie, post-punk, minimalist. How would you describe her music?
I think that's a pretty good job.
God.
Yeah.
She plays drums, bass, guitar, has this high voice. She's originally from England. She moved to the States in the mid-2000s, was in Portland for a while. We don't know where she is now. On YouTube, there's the most recent thing are live shows of her in Paris a year ago. But as
this was the first show that we saw together, Scout Niblet.
We saw Scout Niblet on Mission Street at what club? That club?
Oh,
Galaxy? Something Galaxy?
Yes. No. Yeah, something like that.
It's kind of, yeah. we saw Scout Niblet in another galaxy. But, as I recall, now, didn't they both do a song, We're All Gonna Die? Remember? We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. I heard Jens Lachman do it. And I've heard Scout Niblet do it. So there's a connection here, right? Wasn't there a connection?
Be, yeah.
And then he, on one of her albums, I don't think this is the one. I think it's the album after this, maybe? She did 4 songs with Will Oldham, Bonnie Prince Billy. Anyway, great indie stuff that I would never have learned. And then...
Dun, dun, dun.
Amanda gave me 69. I'm sorry. It's the martini. The Magnetic Field, 69 love songs. You got to tell me about... Oh, we were in Amoeba Records together over 10 years ago, and we were buying some music, and there was a used copy of this on CD. It was hard to get the LP until it got reissued a few years ago.
It didn't come out originally on LP.
See? You gotta get me. You do know shit.
I do know things.
I always tell people, if you don't know it, make it up. You fucking people don't know if this is true or not. So we were in Amoeba, and she stuck this album, a used copy, the CD version, in my hand. She goes, "You got to buy this, right?"
Yeah.
Why?
Why not? Every song on it is, well, not every song is great. That would be an exaggeration. But there are so many incredible songs on here. From, what's the one, I think you just passed it. It was so good. Absolutely Cuckoo. First side A, disc 1, song 1, amazing.
And that song.
And, A Chicken with Its Head Cut Off. What a great fucking song. Reno, Dakota. Oh my gosh. They're all amazing. So, Back from San Francisco.
Come Back from San Francisco.
So good. There's just an amazing, array of wonderful songs on this. And anyone who hasn't... I actually sent this to my brother also. And I have no idea if he's ever listened to it, but I hope he has. Because they're incredible songs, and anyone who knows Magnetic Fields knows that there's no shortage of incredible songs on that collection.
Okay, so those are 5 albums that Amanda, 5 artists that she turned me on to in 2005, 6-ish, and she's going to show some things that are music we've shared, one way or another.
Aww.
Get in the foreground. Get in the foreground, kid.
All right.
You'll make it in movies.
One of the first albums that Maslov turned me on to that really struck a chord with me and has continued to be one of my favorites is Young Marble Giants. This whole album is so incredible. It kind of sounds like it came out of nowhere at the time, and you may be able to tell me different.
The only time I know that they toured America was around 81 when this came out. This is Rough Trade number 8. This is a UK pressing. Yeah. I think it was 1981 I saw them in San Jose, California. Or Palo Alto maybe? Or I think it was one of the two. Down the peninsula from San Francisco. They didn't even play in the city as far as I recall. They're a trio, very minimal. It's funny, all these bands do have some things in common. When you think about Scout Niblet or them, it's sort of a minimal thing with bass. There's no piano really. There might be some organ, right? There's some.
I think there is some, like a Wurlitzer, I think, on here.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Voice, bass guitar, and organ. But Allison Staton is a singer. The opening track, "Searching for Mr. Right," is a perfect sort of minimalist post-punk type of thing, and I love this record. There was an expanded CD about 7-8 years ago that came out. That extra, remember?
Yeah, and it was great.
Yeah.
I got a copy of that.
We shared that. So
yeah, that was a great one. I moved into an apartment, and which I did often in San Francisco, as you do, and he gave me not this particular album, but he gave me a
folk singer, probably. No, Missy.
I can't remember which one it was, but gave me Mississippi John Hurt on vinyl for the first time, and it became a mainstay in my Sunday morning coffee time.
I'll grab it. You can talk.
Okay. Something about the timbre in John Hurt's singing and playing. It is so mellow, which is very different from blues artists. It actually opened the door to a huge obsession that I ended up having with different blues artists, and ended up working on a huge collection of Central Texas blues
as an archivist.
As an archivist. And a lot of that, I'd always kind of loved the blues. I'm from the South originally, and so always had a connection to it, but the album that he gave me really created a renewed fascination that went on for till now, even. I
like to donate and expose archivists to new things. Now the thing,
I was
not
an
new.
archivist at the time.
You're an archivist wannabe. You're in training wheels or something. But the thing is, this is more like folk blues, and the other person, you know who I've gotten into? We haven't really talked about. He's been around forever, but my favorite artist that in the blues folk genre that I'm really into and trying to pick up everything is Josh White.
Oh yeah, amazing.
But it's like more folk than blues, but he's got that acoustic, he's got that smoothness also in a way like Mr. Mississippi does.
Yeah, it's it's incredible. His voice, it's good.
So I kind of want to do that. I want to be like San Francisco Mazzy Maslov.
I don't know about that.
Okay. Special edition Whack-A-Mole with Amanda the Archivist.
So, one of the other artists that we would come to see live together and would become very meaningful in our many years of friendship is Billy Bragg. And I believe you gave me a box set of Billy
There was a
Bragg?
CD box set. There's 2 volumes that came out with all his early albums that were on. One in the U.S. Elektra. What was on in UK? I forgot. Was it Electra Cider or no? Electra Asylum in the U.S. I'm blanking out. Keep talking. Hold these
Okay.
up. Whole thing.
And the first time I saw Billy Bragg play in person was, and I had heard of Billy Bragg before, obviously, but I didn't really have a close connection until I met Maslov, and he kind of opened the door and kind of, and I would guess that the release of the box sets probably spurred a lot of the conversation in some way. But this came out in 2008. We got to see Billy play in San Francisco at
Great American Music Hall.
Great American
We
Music
saw him
Hall.
twice there.
We did.
We were in a
Yeah, 2
balcony.
years in a row. Yeah.
Balcony, right?
Because he came in for the Bluegrass Festival.
Hardly Strictly Bluegrass in San Francisco.
Yeah, and when this album came out, which I feel like is kind of a sleeper hit for Billy Bragg releases, even though it comes in 2 versions, the acoustic and the full band, and it's incredible.
That was on the CD, right? Like,
Yeah, you get both versions on the CD.
Forgot about that. Good.
Yeah, it's great. And I like that the songs stand up but in both versions equally well, which is not something that can always happen necessarily. It exposes kind of how good his songs really are.
He's great.
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of like those of you who don't know Billy Bragg, you should check him out. A lot of people got exposed to him when he did the 2 albums with Wilco, the Mermaid Avenue series of when the estate of Woody Guthrie. I don't know if they're unpublished lyrics or journals or something. You're an archivist. You could tell that story. Do you know about that?
I don't know the entire story, but I do know that there were piles of unfinished lyrics with Nora Guthrie, I believe, in New York, and there became a project. Actually, I believe that Dylan wanted to actually be the one to do the album. But that didn't happen. It ended up being Wilco and Billy Bragg that did it together. And everyone knows Mermaid Avenue. It's an incredible collection. If you ever get to Tulsa, go to the Woody Guthrie Center. It's amazing. You'll have a wonderful time.
Now, are people allowed to go there? I mean,
Woody Guthrie Center is open. There's a great museum, talks about Guthrie's life and his impact on America in terms of his political movements that kind of came out of his songs and folk
Grand
songs.
Coulee Dam.
Yeah, there's a whole section on the Dust Bowl and its impact on America and how his songs kind of became a banner of not only protest but solace during the Depression and all these things. But it's very hopeful, presented in a way that is very meaningful still today. And they often do traveling exhibits in the extra room in the back, which are many times created by the Grammys. And so they are incredible. I think the last one I saw was John Lee Hooker, and it was excellent.
You know, whenever you get a chance to take an archivist out for a drink or coffee, you learn so much stuff. It's so cool. Did they have Dorothea Lange photographs there? That whole thing, you know? Dorothea Lange's the photographer, if you don't know, that was, she got famous because of her classic image from the Dust Bowl. So
They do, yes.
see? If I didn't know, I make it up.
And then, of course, one of the mainstays of our friendship, Woody Allen, excellent. The music to his many movies became the soundtrack to many a conversation. The lines from his films became mainstays in our
Especially
joke canon.
How many people do you know? How many like people of a certain age, of my age, within that range? Do you know people that are younger than you by a good amount of years, at least 4, like, you know, more than that know every line from Annie Hall? I mean, every line.
There's like 2.
Max. What are we going through plutonium? You know, I mean, we could go through the whole line. And 14 years later, like, we'll say one of these lines, and she cracks up at anything.
Not in anything. It has to be. Well, it doesn't have to be funny.
What is this? A sandwich? You know, that kind of thing. Twins, Max. Imagine the mathematical possibilities. Cheers. Anything else before we close out here? I mean, this is like a lot of great stuff. Let me just.
I don't know. Just pull something.
Oh, deal. Weren't there bands? Okay, there's got to be a band that I tried to turn you on to, but you just hated. Let's go that direction first.
I'm sure there's lots.
Aside from the Beatles. No, I know you like the Beatles. We both hate Billy Joel, by the way, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of Phil Collins? I'm asking you just off the cuff, out of the blue, improvising. People out there, what do you think of Phil Collins?
I am not a Phil Collins hater, unlike someone else in the room.
Buddy Holly hated Phil Collins. Oh, wow, that was a good
seems
reaction.
judgmental.
Who else?
Who else do I hate consistently?
let's be positive. Forget it. I just thought there would be someone like I would turn you on. Like we were talking about ABBA. That's not even.
You just
I like
use
ABBA.
that as a joke.
Yeah, I love it. ABBA. It seems like a band people love or hate. I love ABBA, and actually, I was talking with my buddy Coleman who didn't do a whack-a-mole here. He visited here recently, and literally last week, 40 years ago, we went to Concord Pavilion in Northern California and saw ABBA live. The only time ABBA ever toured America was 1979, and we saw ABBA. So that was a pretty cool thing. I mean, it's rare for an American to see ABBA, because Americans really didn't get in the whole ABBA thing till like after they split up, and karaoke and all the movies and all that crap came out. For the most part, they were big, obviously, in the UK, winning the Eurovision Song Contest way back. That has nothing to do with whack-a-mole with Amanda. So, and I kind of want to like run a roll here, but
yeah. I'm trying to think. We set it up pretty well.
Yeah, I think that, we don't want to dilute it. This is kind of like the Beatles. You know, what's great about the Beatles? They broke up, leaving the audience wanting more. Not like the fucking Stones and all these bands. Okay, they put out a record, they do another tour, they come out on their walkers and all that shit. But the Beatles, with Abbey Road, and obviously Let It Be later, but really Abbey Road, which is coming out this week as a 50th anniversary Archivist issue. Actually, let's just talk about that before we end. We shouldn't go on too long, but we'll end it soon. But tell me how you really feel about the Beatles. Is there an album of theirs you really like?
Oh, that's a good
I
question.
don't think I've ever asked you that.
I'm sure at some point. Who knows? We talk a lot of shit. I would say probably Revolver? Is that the wrong answer?
There is no wrong answer, but that's the right answer. Now, okay, Revolver, but the British or American edition?
I don't I don't know.
The British edition, because that's the way the Beatles intended to make it. So, and there's 14 tracks instead of 12 tracks. And anyway, I think...
I'm just not that picky. I don't know that I know by my copy. I know that you've given me probably a version, the preferred UK version.
That blue box, yeah.
But, I don't know that I knew before.
Before we close, lastly, let's close it out. I think the audience, let's leave them hanging.
Yeah, okay.
But...
we can always do another one, right?
We got a few. You can be here for the week, yeah.
Yeah.
She's here all week, folks.
I'm here all week, literally.
In Seattle, literally. I asked her, when are you leaving today? Like, so when are you leaving?
He's ready to get rid of me already.
So, anyway, So, is there any music you're listening to now that you're, not this minute, but lately, that you're really kind of, obviously some blues stuff and everything else, that you're really enjoying listening to? Either artist or genre?
I always enjoy exploring new, different jazz right now. That's kind of where my brain is going a lot.
Oh, we got to tell her about the Tone Poets and the Music Matters Jazz. She doesn't know about this, or the Blue Note 80s. I forgot. She doesn't know about this. We're going to tell her about them. What, any particular artist? Or type of jazz? Or
I've actually been listening to a lot of Charles Lloyd lately.
flautist?
Pianist.
Flautist.
Okay, both, actually.
Hold on a second.
He does a lot of different
Entertain
things.
the troops here.
I know that he plays several instruments, actually. But
I'm going to pull this one only because it was recorded live at the Fillmore in San Francisco. Let's see here. Personnel. Charles Lloyd, tenor sax and flute. Keith Jarrett, piano. Ron McClure, bass. Jack DeJohnette, drums. Does he? I don't want to embarrass you on camera here, but does he really play piano?
I think he does.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
I don't know, baby.
Pretty sure.
That's only Charles Lloyd.
Maybe
on
not.
that.
I have to go back and check, but I feel like maybe he did.
Okay.
I don't know.
Commenters, you've Daz freaks
You'll
know
call
for
me
sure.
out. I know
We'll look
you
it up
will.
we'll do the
Yeah.
Googleplex when we hang up.
I'll have to check, but yeah.
I'm thinking, okay.
Yeah, okay, I could be wrong. I have a terrible memory.
You saw it here on camera. You know because we're watching together, and you saw
I
her
could
say.
totally be wrong.
You saw her say piano. Oh, by the way, VC, I don't know if you noticed the different lighting in this episode. We got a new ring light because I was realizing the exposures and the sort of the amber tungsten tones of this room wasn't happening. So we want to see if this is where I'm looking more flushed, and I can't tell if it's the light or the martini now. But hopefully this light will be better, and my beautiful. Tell the eyeball story.
I don't even remember that.
Okay.
I only know the line anymore. It's been so long.
Quickly, I'm going to say this. Can I say what you did for a living then? You were young.
I was a
yeah.
bartender.
She was a bartender,
Yeah.
and
That's how we met.
Okay,
I
sorry.
make a damn good martini.
She made me martinis at this place I used to go to in the Mission all the time. We became friends, and it sounds weird, but anyway, one night I was at the place that she worked, and it was one of those really crowded nights that all the bar stools were full and people were like 2 or 3 deep, and there was these 3 blonde, excuse the expression, blonde babes, kind of bridge and tunnel babes. Bridge and tunnel, if you don't know it, from the East Coast, it's people would come into Manhattan from Jersey, Long Island, the burbs, they'd come in to go to the clubs and shit. Bridge and tunnel equivalent in San Francisco would be Oakland, San Jose, mostly the Peninsula and Marin. So they'd slum it in the Mission with the cool bars and clubs. So I'm sitting on the bar stool, and for some reason, I don't remember, they were leaning off, they were trying to tell her, 3 of them were trying to yell out the order to Amanda of what they wanted to drink, and it was kind of loud probably.
Definitely.
Yeah, loud music, loud.
The terrible.
And I look
acoustic
around, and they're looking at me, and I don't know if I translated the order to Amanda or something. And they look at me, and one of them says, "You got the most beautiful green eyeballs."
I think I fell over laughing.
And she was leaning over, and she heard it. And if she was drinking, her cocktail would be spewing out of her mouth. It was one of those you had to be there moments. I used to have green eyes when I was young. I mean, they are green, but they used to be really beautiful. That's why the ring light hopefully shows my beautiful green eyeball. That's gonna be creepy.
Bounces off your glasses.
That's gonna be really creepy now. I look like the guy with saliva drooling from his mouth. It's like a Woody Allen.
Yeah.
See, it's always about Woody Allen
Selling
lines.
pencils.
Selling pencils in front of Macy's or whatever. This is only our first, and Amanda she hasn't made me a martini in 10 years.
That's not true at all.
Professionally though.
Yeah,
mean-
more than that.
You haven't been a bartender since how long?
I don't. Long ass
Okay.
time. Who knows?
Okay, anyway.
More than 10 years.
Before you were-
Well, more than 10 years. 12 years? 13 years?
Bartender
12 years.
to graduate school. Where'd you go to graduate school?
UT Austin.
Wow, Austin. We went to the Austin record shows a couple
I did
times
lots of
together.
things between there, though. I had, like, you know, lots of music-related jobs.
San Francisco tech music things. Cool stuff. I mean, she's a player. She's great. She's great. Anyway, I think that's it for now. I think we're hitting 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, Mazzy loves
believe
you.
you're still here.
Amanda loves you. Well, they're not. Hey, these people are sitting home and they're falling asleep. It's 3 a.m. They woke up. They're watching these videos. But I'm finding on the VC, and even when I do my whack-a-moles, and I know Hannah and Bo now up in down in Olympia, and a few other, people like the sort of tag teaming things because it's really good to play off someone else, right? Because I'm Amanda's straight man here, and it's kind of fun. But it's really nice to talk about other people's taste and interest in music and their knowledge. And from the bottom of my heart, fans, thank you very much.
Thank you,
for watching.
VC.
Thanks, VC. Oh, she knows what VC is. She thought it was. She thought it was one of those test strips that in the drawer in the bathroom. Take care, VC.
What?